Trading 360. I'm Nicole Petalides. It's time for the big three. Three stocks, three charts, three trades. Kevin Green will take us through the charts. Here to take us through the trades, Charles Moon, Prosper Trading Academy. I can't tell you whether or not it's a winning week or a losing week on Wall Street when it comes to the S&P 500 because we're right at the unchanged line. The NASDAQ looks like it could clock in another losing week. How are you feeling, Charles?
Yeah, I don't want to say I got motion sickness, but this market certainly has been kind of fighting back and forth. You know, we saw a really nice response from the FOMC meeting. Yesterday, it looked like the markets were ready to spark off, and then midday made a big reversal right back down to where we had pretty much started the day. And today we retraced back to where we started the day on Wednesday. So, you know, this volatility is still very prominent in the market environment. I don't see it dissipating anytime soon. So we have to kind of expect these market swings. And, you know, anytime we have volatility in the markets, the overall theme is that we're going to eventually work lower versus higher. The market's like a little bit more certainty and calm versus calamity. And when it's calm, it's bullish. When there's a little bit of calamity, you know, people tend to take their money off the table pretty quickly. And that's what we've been seeing still.
Right, understood. So let's talk here about Doordash. So you're looking at this name, hit 215, the recent high. You know, 1 year it's up 46%, a great performer. Let's pull back some and has been chopping around and trying to give it a little go in the near term. Some of your thoughts on Doordash?
Yeah, you know, all things considered, even though they're pretty, you know, decent off the highs in terms of the initial pullback, they've held up relatively really well, especially in comparison to counterparts like Uber. You know, this is a stock that's been really fighting here actively over the last 2 weeks to try and break free from, you know, the seller's grasp here. I think that the key price level to watch is going to be right around this 193 to 195 range. You know, they got to just maintain and find the support and demand right around this 188 to 190 price. I feel this is really important. This will give actually a very bullish signal if it's able to hold and bounce off of this level. You know, again, when we look at performance, they're holding up relatively well. So if the market environment does get bullish, this should be one of those names that could be really standing out of the crowd. You know, and again, you know, this is really just highly dependent on the overall market conditions. But even with this little downdraft, even with these pullbacks, they've been fighting. Buyers have been trying to buy it up in the near term. So I'm looking really for this hold. And if it continues to hold, I expect this breakout to bring the stock to around 205 and then eventually back to that 215 price.
And two notable partnerships to talk about here when it comes here. I mean, Doordash and Klarna are collaborating. It's working with Klarna for buy now, pay later. Also for Dollar General, working with Dollar General to bring food access to SNAP customers that can bring a whole nother realm of folks. So it's interesting that they have these two partnerships that have been announced recently. Kevin, good morning. Could you take a look at the charts, please?
Yeah, definitely. So we have seen a nice little move to the upside over the last year when it comes to Doordash. Early last year, we did see a little bit of a pullback, a consolidation, and then we had a nice little breakout, getting above that 20-day moving average and basically utilizing that as your area of support pretty much the whole way up here, Nicole. Now, we did see maybe a little bit of a blowout top here at around the $215.25 level. We have seen a pullback, as Charles did mention here. And if you kind of look at the waves here, we're probably in that second counter trend rally before another flush to the downside, if you just kind of believe and subscribe to that theory here. But we are breaking above that 20-day moving average that is in blue, and we've been trying to push higher. We have a little bit of a doji candle right now for today's session, and so we are seeing a little bit of indecision. If we do break higher here, I'm right there with Charles. You kind of look at that 204-ish area as your first area of resistance, and then going to the highs at $215. Any breakdown, the first area that I'm looking at, which the stock pretty much wicked at, is the $176. A further breakdown below that, 165, and then you're looking at the 200-day moving average. RSI is making lower lows as well as lower highs for now, but it does appear that it's trying to make a trend shift. And the very bullish indicator out of all of them, in my opinion, here is going to be that MACD. MACD looks like it is trying to cross that 12 EMA above the 26 EMA, still below the zero line here, but that does kind of give you an indication that maybe over the next couple of days, we still have some green for the stock before any type of major pullback.
All right, yeah, and you're waiting to really see it solidify, Charles. Final quick thoughts there?
Yeah, in this environment, having a little bit more confirmation is probably the best approach. There's speculating and then there's reading and reacting. And, last time I was on here, I talked about how reactionary this market is as opposed to being anticipatory. And that's what makes things a little difficult to trade in. That's what makes things a little bit volatile. We're seeing still the markets reacting pretty sharply to news and any news that's coming on the wire. And when we're in this environment, having that confirmation does help quite a bit. Now, again, I'm not expecting this to be a long drawn move. I'm expecting things to work and react pretty quickly. And again, if it pops that kind of 2042, that 194, 195 price, I do expect a pretty fast rise to that 204, 205 level. And we'll see if it gets sustained from there.
All right. I know your next up, you have Meta, and I'm looking at Meta at the same time. I'm seeing more about U.S. investors and ByteDance explore the TikTok deal to appease President Donald Trump, according to the Financial Times. I mean, the word on the street is it looks like it may be a go-ahead. If TikTok, that might bode well for the likes of Meta. Some of your thoughts here at 591 today, Meta. Charles.
The thing with the Mag 7 stocks, names like Microsoft, Nvidia, Tesla, Amazon, Google, these stocks have been a major reason why we've dragged. And, a lot of these stocks are actually underperforming the 200-day moving average, which is quite a important threshold that the markets and the market participants look at. And that's exactly where Meta is right now. We came down to this level. The stock has been screaming lower since it's made its all-time highs. And this is where we're starting to see a little bit of balancing here, a little bit more buyer activity. And that tells me that, at least some participants in Wall Street, definitely retail traders, are looking for Meta to kind of draw the line in the sand and perhaps try to reverse from this level. So this is why I believe it's a make or break price at this 572. Continue to hold. I'm really looking for a quick flash above $600. That's that key psychological level that's historically been a previous resistance level going back to late fall. So, acceptance above that price means that we're probably looking to reverse back, at least in the short term, to around 620. That's going to be right where that 20 SMA should converge. And that's always an important indicator for short-term traders. If Meta could get back above that level, I see them really pushing towards 650. It won't take them long. Obviously, Meta can move anywhere from $23 to like $30 a day, especially if it's in a state of recovery. And, we've seen some of the TikTok news have some effect. It's a bit difficult because, Meta's been in such a strong downtrend. I'm not even sure if like the news has affected the stock, or this has just been a pure, trend-based trade, momentum trade to the downside. But now that they're trying to balance, we're either looking for a catalyst or we're just looking for a really sharp spark from buyers to really help lift the stock. So, we're going to have to wait and see if it could actually hold. But if it does, I like the recovery idea, especially out of the Mag 7 names.
Okay, and look, Kevin will take a look at the technicals now. Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, the stock has been in a really nice uptrend over the last year. And actually, it was in a pretty decent channel and reliable channel until we saw that breakout to the upside back in around February. We saw the stock move to the upside to around $740. And then we saw a breakdown. We came back into that channel, but did not last for long. And you saw a breakdown down to the 200-day moving average. It's not a surprise that you're seeing some activity here, or maybe some buyers stepping in, a battle taking place between the bulls and the bears. And if you are starting to see some buyers really kind of overtake a lot of this volume, you could look for a little bit of a pop to the upside. Charles mentioned that 20-day moving average sitting at around $625 first. That's going to be your first area of resistance. But if we do a Fibonacci retracement from the highs to the 200-day moving average, the 50% retracement sitting at around $657. And then the 61.8% retracement, which bulls want to see reclaimed, is sitting at $676.82. So that could also be reasonable areas where we see a bounce. Any further breakdown, I'm looking at the point of control to the downside here, sitting at $507.11. That's where the majority of the volume has been traded on this 1-year time frame here. You have RSI actually consolidating and trying to hinge higher. That's bullish above that oversold level. And the MACD looks like it is hinging with that 12 EMA trying to curl up, maybe crossing that 26 EMA. And if it does, that could also be a short-term buy signal here, Nicole. So a lot of support areas and a lot of indicators kind of signaling that maybe some bulls are going to try to take a shot here, and maybe we do see a nice little bounce to the upside.
Yeah, and look, I was noting that Bank of America was talking about all the inflows into equities this week. They were talking about 43 billion, the biggest of the year. So maybe people are starting to say, I'm seeing some value in some of the names that have been beaten down. Let's take a look here. Last but not least, we're looking at Autodesk, and Autodesk hit a high of 326 at the end of the year last year. Some of your thoughts now when it's at 265.
Yeah, this is the stock has been kind of shrouded in news. Obviously, they had the issues with the 10K filing that created the stock. It recovered very nicely, very similar to Meta here in recent month, in the last month and a half. They've been on a really extended and very sharp downtrend. And this is where we have to say, well, how are the market conditions? Are we going to be in this elevator down, elevator up type of move, or are we still seeing the volatility, which again I had alluded to, which would never, historically point out to the markets reacting and performing negatively? And I don't want us to just only think that we need to be buyers. Short term, we could certainly respectfully look and trade on both sides. As a trader, I'm always looking for opportunities. And with ADSK, this looks like to me what's becoming a more fade the rally type of play. They're struggling here. They've immediately found and met with a lot of selling and risk off trading right at the 200-day moving average near this 273 price. So what was really important, what I was looking for, was a breakdown below right around 265, 262 today. We're trading at 265. We opened at 262. We've been in a nice rally, but still down. And so they actually start to deflect lower here. Underneath 262, I think the fallout could be somewhere between 250 and 244, which is going to signal and actually point out the continuance of the downtrend. After it hit that 326 mark, which was their 52-week high just before the new calendar year, we revisited back to that level and we failed at that moment. And since it failed to break those highs, it's been breaking down, and it broke down through that 200-day moving average. So it's really signaling that this is more of a fade the rally type of play as opposed to buy the dip, at least for the near term.
Right. They were talking about their operating margins, as you noted, representing gains. I mean, they saw some real positive things ahead. Kevin, some of your thoughts on the technicals, please.
Yeah, Autodesk has seen a pretty wide range over the last year. Last year, we did see a little bit of a breakdown at the start of the year, and then we had a consolidation and then a breakout to the upside. Once again, riding that 20-day moving average all the way to the highs until it actually flipped from an area of support to an area of resistance. And we've been in this flag ever since. Broke out, tried to have a little bit of a counter trend rally, broke back down, hit that 200-day moving average, which was within that channel. And then now we saw a further breakdown. Charles is right. I mean, if you're kind of looking at this 200-day moving average, it's acting as an area of resistance. The last two trading sessions, we've also had these shooting star candles, or basically trying to attempt a move to the upside, which sellers came right back in. That's also at the top of a small counter trend rally that is, for the most part, bearish. And the 20-period moving average also acting as an area of resistance here. Any further breakdown, you're looking at 245 as your first area support, which we saw pretty much last week. Anything below that, you're looking at around 218. That's the volume profile point of control area that buyers saw some value there. RSI has actually broken the downtrend though, Nicole, so that's bullish. MACD crossing at the 12 EMA above the 26, still below the zero line, but the first signal of bullish activity has been confirmed as well. Cautiously optimistic, but it seems like the momentum is still pushing for a little bit more of a downside move over the next couple of weeks.
All right, great to see you both. Charles Moon, Prosper Trading Academy, and our own Kevin Green there on the charts. Really appreciate it. We looked at Doordash, Meta, and Autodesk in our big three.